So, hi and welcome everyone. Tonight's interview is with Alex about his talk about C++ 20 features. Hi and welcome, Alex. Let's get started with an introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Dathskovsky. I have more than 18 years of experience in system programming, many different things. I'm always pushing C++, and in each company that I was in, I always pushed it to the limit. Let's call it that. I'm director of software engineering in CilaDB right now. And basically, that is a really, really quick introduction. If you have any questions, so feel free to ask, as Jan said.
All right, let's get started with a quick overview of your talk. So your talk is entitled Unlocking the Value of C++ 20 Features. And so this reads then, with C++23 already making headlines and 26 is on the horizon, it's tempting to focus on the bleeding edge, which is true. I just wrote an email about this today. But in practice, many companies are still navigating the shift to C++ 20, not beyond it. And this talk is designed to help developers make the most of this pivotal transition. And so basically your talk is about the C++ 20 features like practical examples about constant expression, enhanced lambdas, spaceship operator, consteval, templated lambdas, and so on. So are you focusing more on the smaller features of C++ 20, or are you going for the big picture?
I'm focusing on the smaller things that most people are tending to miss because C++20 was a huge release and they have many big features there. So we will just touch a little bit about the big four, which are ranges, concepts, and modules. And I forgot the fourth one right now for some reason. That is weird. But in any case, sorry?
Coroutines?
Coroutines, thank you. So we will touch those, but I wanted to show other things because there are so many good talks about those topics. And for example, I have my own talk about concepts from template to concepts a few years back that digs into that. And we have other people talking about coroutines, many good topics there. But people tend to forget that C++20 was so big with so many good features that you just need to know about them. And last time I gave this talk was a year ago, actually, in Core C++. And people after the talk came to me and said, I had no idea C++20 had so many good features that we never heard about. And we will now push our companies to move forward to C++20 because it will make our life easier. And I can say from my perspective, I worked in Speed Data IO, where we developed heavily with metaprogramming. And when I started, it was C++17. When I just got in, I started pushing towards C++20 because I've seen the power of that. I know what it can do. And we moved to it, and it made our job much easier because the templates, the concepts, everything was really making our lives super easy, much easier than with C++17. So companies should move there. And what I'm trying to say in this is it's already 2025. So C++20 is super stable. Move to it. It will worth your while.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I really like that we have still talks which feature these features and go into the details for that, because not everyone is on the modern compilers. And actually we have two talks which are actually talking about transitioning from either from toolset to toolset, where Anna Merz is speaking about, and then generally about transition code bases into newer standards. And that's definitely a good thing. I think that's something which I want to actually see more talked about, like good practices at conferences. What do we do with those features which we have in the standard instead of just always talking about the fancy new things, which is also great to have.
It's amazing.
So on C++20, I just was thinking about like what features have you not used yet? Because it's such a big standard, right? Is there something which you couldn't really bring to your code base yet?
I have to say that it's so big, so maybe I haven't used something, but I usually try to move forward and to use whatever is needed in the code base. I can say that we heavily use concepts. We used many of the smaller features for const expressions. We have used coroutines, and we have tried to use modules, but sadly, this is the only feature that is still not really available to us right now. So I would say yes, modules is the thing that we tried, but we couldn't implement yet. Right now, it's just getting ready with GCC and Clang. It's so weird.
Yeah, actually, it's something I see that I think that's also kind of like, yeah, we are in this time frame where, like, modules are getting out of their beta phase. And so that's actually an audience question we get from Marius here. What's your experience with modules? And especially like 23 has this interesting feature that you have in theory when your compiler supports this today, the standard modules.
They are not really in, and they are not really usable because modules were not supported in the build system. And just in CMake, I think 339 or something like that, it started to be supported. The standard itself is not really out there yet, and I think it's only with the using standard or import STD will be available in C++26, hopefully. So I don't have a lot of experience with it because it wasn't available for a long time, and we had to move on. So this is the only feature that was not really used.
Mm-hmm. And we continue with features like format. Is this something which will play a role in your talk? It's also kind of a smaller feature.
Yes, it will play a big role in my talk because I'm a format fanatic. If you have seen my posting or my videos in YouTube, I always use FMT format because it was available much before stud format was in 2023. But right now I'm moving a lot of things to stud format. Of course, it's a great feature.
Why are you moving it to what is better in stud format than in FMT?
Because it's just a standard. I always tend to use the standard itself, the standard library, and not external libraries. In the end of the day, Vitali is moving and helping to move FMTlib to STD. And FMTlib will be just the playground, like Boost for libraries, like Boost was for libraries, and now it's the Beeman project. But in the end of the day, you always strive to use the standard as much as you can.
That's true. Getting rid of dependencies is always good. So, what have you learned about C++ from working on this and other talks?
What have I learned about C++ when I worked on this talk? Well, I learned that even I didn't know all the features that are inside C++20, and I wish I had 3 hours to tell you about all the features, but I have only one. So I nitpicked just the things that I think will be actually used will be usable for people. A lot of things are very little and niche things for mathematical stuff and things that are not really used. So in this way, I think 1 hour will cover the most things that will be actually useful and will be helpful for you in your daily work.
Actually, yeah, your daily work. That's something interesting I'd like to listen more to. What do you do with C++?
Okay, this is kind of awkward because I just left my company a month ago, which was Speed.io. So Speed.io, we developed an accelerator for analytics, and I have developed the compiler, which was a Clang based, so everything was C++. We developed our own language and libraries that were very similar to CUDA, so you had to write this special language, which looked very much like C++, and everything inside it was heavily templated. So it's like a code generator. I wish we had reflections back then, but C++20 was the best thing we had in that time. But still, with constexpr and templates, everything got really, really easy. And right now, I just started in a company called ScyllaDB. I'm there for almost a month. They are using C++ heavily with parallel and distributed database. So we are using C++23, and we have a great CTO that finally I don't have to push to the limit. They are pushing to the limit even without me. So it's really great. I hope I will get him to pull us to C++26 as soon as possible, because I want reflections.
Do you think that reflections is actually usable in the
Oh
current
yeah.
state?
Oh yeah. I use them. I already use them because Clang has a special build, and you can use it in Godbolt with C++26 reflections. And I have actually, my talk in CPPCon was about Python bindings. And for CPPCon, I have actually added a couple of slides of how I create Python bindings with reflections. How much it cleans the code and how beautiful it is.
That sounds rather nice. But how much of that do you do with, I mean, you need to have a special version of Clang, right? That's sort of dependent then. And there's no other implementations out there.
Actually, Dencuts, and thanks to Dencuts, we have all of those things. Released a special version of GCC as well, with static exceptions.
Nice.
So everything is available at Godbolt, and you can go and install the versions that he created, because they're on GCC and Clang sites as well. That's not a problem. But I mean, I want C++26 itself. When we will have a compiler that will actually support it, then I can actually push it. Right now, it's just I play with it. I try it. I want to understand it better. I want to generate code.
Well, that's nice, but you can't use it in production, right?
Right now, no. Sadly, no. That's why I'm saying I'm waiting for the standard to be out and for the actual compiler to be out. But the beautiful thing is that they already implemented the Clang. So it just needs to be merged in, and that's it.
I mean, if you already have a GCC version also being available of this is really good news. And actually, we will have talk about reflections on the conference, which isn't visible at the moment, because we're building a fifth track right now, and that will be one of the talks, which we will now bring into the fifth track. And let me see if there's some audience question. So what is the impact of the spaceship operator on your code?
It's great. It removes a lot of code, and it makes things much simpler. I will speak about the spaceship operator in my talk in a very, very extensive way, because when you use it, you need to understand the rules. So I will speak about the rules, the things that you must have an implementation of, the things how it works, the special comparison operators, and the special comparison return values. But overall, the impact is great. I removed, I think, hundreds of lines of code because I introduced spaceship operators to almost all the code base.
That sounds interesting. So we're starting with the theme of CPP20. So what's like the most used feature for you from the 20 standard?
I don't know if it will be used most useful for everyone, but it's a concept of concepts, of course. It made my life much, 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 much easier. Like, if you're writing a lot of meta programming and generic programming, this is just a jewel in the crown.
Yeah, and I think it has the advantage that it was like, C++ 17 was supposed to have it. And I remember how upset someone from the C++ community was that it wasn't in 17. But I think the actual 20, that's the 20 feature which has then, had its time to be polished and to be implemented everywhere and released early. So we do have the experience with it.
I have to say, it was one of the best decisions to postpone it to C++ 20. So right now I'm kind of in the middle between being in the committee and being out of the committee, and I'm finding my way in back. But I understand why they decided to do that, and I wish they would do it to other features as well. But it is what it is.
I had thoughts like that about modules, like, what if they, would have pushed modules for 23 instead of 20?
I think modules should have been pushed to 26, because until today we don't have modules.
Maybe we got modules because no one wanted to push it forever. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
There's a short question about how do you manage your dependencies? Do you use a package manager like Conan or VC package?
Conan all the way. I really enjoy using Conan. Since Conan tool was introduced, it became much, much easier to use. It was more defined. I have developed our own dependency repo, and the thing is just calling Conan and installing things, and then my CMake wrapper is taking all the dependencies from the CMake tool chains that were installed from Conan and pushing them to all the other CMakes. But in the end of the day, Conan is really great. It's really easy to understand, really easy to use, and yeah, use Conan. Conan 2, not 1. It's deprecated.
Yeah. I know Diego for many years, so I'm a bit biased towards that topic, so I'm not saying anything about
Okay.
So the embedded world, I actually don't know you well enough to wonder if that's a fair question to you, but let's just,
I'm not I'm not an embedded guy. Sorry,
Okay.
Jans. Please continue.
Then we'll dodge this question.
I can answer about a couple of things. So coroutines are a great thing for the embedded world. I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can use for embedded. And I think const expressions, again, const experts, if you are using embedded concept, and concepts are amazing as well. Yeah.
And
those are the top three.
Doesn't have an effect on the runtime and helps you to do things at compile time. It's always great. With coroutines, I am not sure how this affects the code generation, and I think the standard coroutines are partly or partially or always allocating, so embedded world is probably not so happy with those.
Some of them, but you can do things to make it more easy for embedded systems, and there are really great talks about coroutines and embedded. And for example, I don't remember who had the talk, but he actually shows how to create safe exceptions for embedded with coroutines. So basically, instead of throwing a regular exception, you're using a coroutine for that, and you're throwing with that. So really, it's something that is usable in embedded, in my opinion, and you just need to understand how it works. I wish that C++ would go with stateless coroutines, but alas.
Yeah, I agree with this partially, but I think also that it's like very much embedded has become such a huge umbrella where everyone, thinks that's something different. So, while we're at coroutines, it's like how usable are coroutines in 20 versus additional features introduced with 23, like STD generator?
It depends on how much code do you want to write. So C++20 coroutines are fully supported. You just need to write a lot of code to implement them. Stud generator is just a nice wrapper for that to use that. So that's it. But it's much easier to use it in C++23. Of course, it's much easier. But on the other hand, if you really want to use them, there is no stopping you there. You can just implement everything by yourself. It will take more time, but it's all fully there, all features.
All right. So, and I guess we're going to hear a lot more about C++20 in your talk. So, last week there was CPPCon, and you have been there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not. I was on holiday. That's terrible fate. But how was it? What did you bring as experience?
I have to say that I'm yearly at CPPCon. I'm speaking yearly there since 2021. And it's a great experience. It's one of the largest conferences in the world, and you have so many good and big names speaking there, and so many good topics. So each year it's futuristic and down to the basics as well. So that's what I love about CPPCon. This year, I think it was great as well. It went like 5 days, went like nothing. It just from the beginning to the end, great talks, great people, great experiences. A lot of the talks, of course, this year were about concepts and not concepts, about contracts and about reflections. And one I like, the other one I don't like so much. Guess which one? But in the end of the day, if you have the chance to come to CPPCon, I think it's great. It's a great experience to be there. It's so many people, so many good people coming there. It's not like what I'm saying. Oh, I'm always saying the most important part of any conference is the hallway track. So if you're going to conferences, meet new people, connect, network. This is the most important thing that you can do in conferences. The talks are important as well, but meet people. Meet people and understand what people are doing, try to help them, they will try to help you. You will find out that people are not so different, and this is a great thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been at CPPCon until 2019 from 2014. And so the early years were pretty good, but people who knew the old version of CPPCon kind of had a hard time in 2019. And I think that, you're just knowing from 2021 that that's a complete different arc, getting out of the pandemic and then CPPCon getting better again after that. Which is definitely interesting that you kind of, lived through that. And I, at some point, I hope to be able to go back to CPPCon. Right now, it's not so much an option as I'm very busy with my own conference. And I used to give talks there to almost every year about various projects I've been working on, new standards, etc. So you gave a talk at CPPCon. What was the talk about?
The talk I gave in CPPCon was C++ loves Python, and it's basically about C++ binding. I have explored how C++ and Python are really similar to each other. With each version of Python, in each version of C++, we're starting to see more similar things. So I'm showing the similarities. I'm explaining the differences. I'm explaining why Python cannot be used for everything. I'm showing the different ways to do bindings with the regular C Python and with CPP bind 11, PyBoost. and going to CPPYY, which is a great dynamic library to do that. So basically you have clean, which is a interpreter for C++ that works directly from Python, which is amazing. And I go in for that extensively in the talk and explain the things and the features that you can do with it. And for CPPCon, I have added a couple of slides showing how reflections are actually making our life easier with bindings as well. So binding usually tends to create a lot of boilerplate code. And with reflections, you will not have that. So you are creating loops that generate your code. And this is just amazing. That's why I want reflection as fast as possible, because I generate code a lot.
Yeah, I think the blog posts about reflection this year has been one of the most amazing things with C++ you could read. And definitely the talks about that at CPPCon and the talk about that at CPPCon. And then also this will be the same thing at Meeting C++. We also have a lot of socializing, and for years had a track in the hallway also going. So that will be very much in a few weeks. A big topic for us too. 26 is on the door, and seems like, yeah, and I kind of have to agree with you with contracts being. I have questions and wonder about contracts too, because I think it's just like modules that it's not very much fleshed out in the interoperability and what it means for builds, etc. And I have right now no practical use case to put contracts to use. So that's something I think which a lot of C++ features for me personally make me struggle with things like that. I see the importance and I see the possibilities of getting it there, but sometimes this stays a bit abstract then, and you need to kind of have the time to more or less completely implement that and have some people talk about it. So for me, I think we are kind of in the arc where contracts still is for most people very theoretical, and some people give talks about the feature, but then I'll look forward to people actually doing talks about using contracts with real life examples. And as far as I know, that's like contracts is not like a library implementation, it's a language implementation. So we need to really have actually like mainline compilers supported. And there's process and work done in this direction. So
my greatest fear with that is it will make compilation and runtime so bad, not compilation, runtime so bad that people will not use it. And it will be a compilation flag to turn it on and off. And some libraries will have contract, some libraries won't have contract. And in my opinion, it will just make C++ more complicated again. And we are too complicated as it is.
Yeah, that's something I'm waiting for. So I don't have like a real opinion on contracts yet, but I'm skeptical. But let's see. Also, like, getting back to Conan, which I like. So there's a direct question towards you, right? Do you publish your own Conan packages? And if you do that, what's like the process and how do you compare it to Python tooling?
With Conan 2, yeah, we actually create our own packages and we publish them to our, we used to publish, I'm not there anymore, but we used to publish them to our own Artifactory, Conan Artifactory, and it was really, really easy and seamless. So with Conan Artifactory and putting our packages there, it was seamless. People just got all the packages without even knowing they are getting the packages.
Yeah, I have no experience with that part of Conan, but yeah, I think that I've talked to Diego about these things, and he said like, well, one of the big reasons we did the cut with Conan 2.0 is to make things easier and to have people be able to do things easier, and they achieved that.
I have to say that to write a Conan package in Conan 2.0 is just to write a simple Python code, and that's it. And you have a package. It's really easy when you understand and you just read the manual, and the manual is pretty good for Conan 2. It's really easy to achieve. And now I will say something that everyone will like. If you really don't want to write it, use ChatGPT or any other AI tool. They're creating great Python packages for Conan 2. Wonderful. I started doing that, and it's really easy to do that. You just ask it what you want to have in the package and how you want it to look. Amazing.
Indeed, people are always using for an excuse to use AI. So that's like one of the most interesting things for me this year was that every single talk that was touching AI and tooling and stuff in this direction for meeting C++ during the voting completely dropped through. No interest from the audience, from which kind of does the voting. And I see it like in a lot of other conferences, like as keynotes, etc. So, what's your view and your usage of AI tooling today? What do you use of that?
Well, I think AI is a great assistant. As I mentioned, I write Conan packages with it because it does the job really, really well. I don't use Google anymore because it's easier for me to use AI to do that. Sometimes it hallucinates, but I know my stuff, so usually I don't fall into those things. Sometimes it gives a great answer that was much, much harder to find. Depends on the module. I really think that you should use AI because it's really good for some things. For example, the nitpicking and the smaller things in code reviews in GitHub does a wonderful job with Claude. In my opinion, it's great. ChatGPT is really good with creating smaller modules for Python. I always forget the commands in Bash because I use it once in a while. So it's really easy for me to go to ChatGPT or to Claude and say, okay, write script that does something like that, and then I just fix things that I don't think that were written correctly. It's really good with finding smaller bugs. So if you can paste code snippets, it can find issues. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. In the end of the day, C++ is really, really bad in AI. It's not there yet, not even close. Claude is getting a little bit closer, and Claude Agent is getting a little bit closer there, but still it's not there. But in any case, I think AI is great. People are just making AI more than it is. It's not something that's going to replace you, not in the near future. You just need to use it because it makes your life easier. Like when Google started, it made all people life easier to find things, to search in one place, and it gives you all the results that you need. Same here. It's even easier because you are asking a question and getting an answer. Sometimes you just need to explore the answer and not just use it directly. So, for example, if you're asking a question about something that is in Linux kernel, don't write that code and load the module directly because it may kill your computer. Try to understand if the answer is correct.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big faults of AI is that you basically already have to know what you're doing. And this spring I had kind of I stumbled upon a use case where I was like, hey, this is a good test for C++. I wanted to have a function which I give a date to, and it returns the ISO week number. And that's something which is not covered by the standard. So you cannot go and do chrono magic and have it do that. You, of course, can implement it in chrono, but there is not like a standard function taking a date and giving you, or a time point to be exact as chrono. So I asked, I think it was ChatGPT, the Twitter AI tool and
Grok.
Grok, and Claude over Matplotlib. And Claude was the only one which actually gave a good solution which worked. ChatGPT was helpless and got things always wrong. Grok got me a solution which wasn't correct, and all of them I didn't interact much with them. I just said, well, is your solution correct? And then Grok corrected itself and said, no, it's not. But here are tests, and now my solution is correct, and all my tests are passing. If you believe Grok, you're done for the day, because if you compiled the code which Grok gave you with the tests, you could see that the tests actually were not passing. And that all the complicated code they wrote, and this is such an easy and mean function to implement, because it has so many corner cases to get it right. And so Claude was able to solve it correctly and to solve it kind of fast in the first version. And when asked if it's correct, it hallucinated that was a problem because maybe your compiler doesn't support that thing it was using there from the C standard. It actually can do it and does it in a very optimized and fast way. And then wrote like the other AI's solution from scratch to do it, which involves a lot of calls to the system to know certain dates and stuff, and that's very slow. So the first solution from Grok was like, not from Grok, but from Claude was like 100 times faster than the other solution. But both solutions were correct, which I found amazing. But maybe they just had a good day. That's the other thing. It's not repeatable, right?
Yeah, it's statistical. It's always statistical. But with Claude, the thing is that they're actually trying to train it more and more to do those things in C++. So it's getting better and better in it. And if you would look at the latest talks from Daisy Holman, she's actually working in Anthropic right now, and they are developing Grok. Sorry, they are developing Claude, of course, and she just showed me in CPPCon, she showed me some graphs and the development of the different versions. And she showed me the gradual improvement of how Claude writes C++ and how Claude understands C++. So that's why I said, in my opinion, Claude is getting better and better in C++. I really see that.
We'll see. I think I don't have so much experience with it, so I can't really talk about that. Anyways, if you have any more questions, please ask them in the chat. Was very nice to talk with Alex here about C++ 20, Conan, CPP Conan, all the other things. And if you have any more questions, post them to the chat, then we'll maybe take a few more questions. But otherwise, I think we are through, and I'm looking very much forward to see you in Berlin.
I look to be there for the first time, so it's going to be my first meeting C++, and I'm really excited.
I'm getting excited too. It's just a few weeks now. I've been on holiday, and usually this week I've been at CPCon, and now just the next few weeks will be very busy. Oh, that is a great one. Thank you, Mario. That's something we could actually close on. What's your take on safety versus performance?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Like, you should always be safe, always, because your code, like, I've seen many code bases that used undefined behavior to make their code 100 times faster. But when the compiler changed, the behavior changed, and then everything just exploded in their faces. I would say safety is very, very important. So try to find the safest way to get the performance that you need. Sometimes it's doable. Never like Bjarne said, never shoot yourself in the foot, because in C++, if you shoot yourself in the foot, you will blow everything off, like the whole thing. So yeah, it's really important. Don't use re-entropy cost. I had a keynote in CPP North a month ago, just about everything that re-entropy cost can do bad for you. And people started asking me, because they're working with Quant and they are using a lot of re-entropy cost. And I just told them that if you're using C++20, you don't really need to do that.
Yeah, I think that safety is important, and one of the big advantages of C++ is that we basically can make a lot of those things happen at compile time. So you get performance out of that safety if you do it right. But on the other hand, what's worse to be fast and wrong, right? That's just, I don't understand the question so much in that context sometimes. When, think that I kind of understand that there's, as you mentioned, like all the trading people, which need to be fast, and that's their business objective to have that millisecond. And for a lot of other people, it doesn't add so much up when you're not running on a server or where a lot of traffic is on, or when you're actually running your code in a busy environment. Maybe it's not that important to spend the last quench on performance, because maybe you want to prefer to have code which is maintainable and all the quality there. So I think there's always trade-offs to be made. And there's actually an interesting email I got this week from Anthony Williams, who's our keynote speaker. And he decided to speak on safety and software. So we'll probably get to hear about things like that in the keynote. So very much looking forward to that in Berlin. And there's one last banner to show. Thank you for your time, Alex. Very much.
Thank you for having me. It was great. See you in Berlin.
You're welcome. See you in Berlin.
Goodbye.